Here we go again. The wild ride continues. Yesterday, the wild ride really did continue because everything that everybody's been so focused on for all the right reasons, but Russia, Ukraine certainly had center stage once again, and obviously should be center stage. That is influencing so many different factors across so many different sectors. It's absolutely incredible. So we can start off with the Dow. The Dow yesterday, within the first hour, we were down 400 points. We accelerated towards the very end of the day. And as we got closer, we closed virtually, call it on the lows, down about 800 points on the Dow. So got a really strong hit to the Dow. Now you look over at the NASDAQ, and it was kind of wavering early on. It was positive, it was negative, it was positive, it was negative. But by the time we got through the first hour, we started to see a little bit of pressure. We were down a couple hundred points. We finished the day down almost 500 points, about a 3.6% move to the downside again for the NASDAQ. And the NASDAQ has been getting beat. This is why, one of the reasons why, when guys like Scott Wapner will ask us, hey, is the bottom in and all the rest of it? I said, hey, look, I have no idea. I don't think so. I seem to be, because of the indicators that we have been seeing in the options world, the answer would be no. But I'm not bold enough to go out there and say, I think the bottom is in or I think the top is in. But we can talk about what the flows are telling us. The flows have been telling us, hey, look, oil's going a heck of a lot higher. Gold's going higher. Copper's going higher. Materials going higher. But it kind of stops there. And then what's going lower? Well, you're getting hit with the financials. You're getting hit with certain areas within the economy. And that's exactly what we are seeing. We're going to focus on that when we do hit some of the unusual today. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. So financials. Financials were down early, down a couple of percent. By the time we got to the end of the day, we were down 3.7%, nearly a 4% move to the downside. Consumer discretionary, absolutely hammered yesterday. One of the biggest losers, or the biggest losing sector of the day. Technology, not good at all. That was down about 3.7% as well. And then you look over at something like energy. And energy was up 3%, then it finished still up, but it did pull back a little bit. And sometimes we've seen that happen in the past, sort of going to where there's success and taking something from that because of the weakness in other areas. And that is certainly something that we've watched pretty consistently. We talked about gold. Gold hanging around that 2000 level, burst up through it actually. Copper hit 5, then it kind of pulled back. So that's another one of those things that's pretty interesting, as we know the demands are there, but had that big spike and then a little bit of a pause and a little bit of a pullback. 10-year, that's something we haven't been as focused on, but it certainly is getting hammered, or it's getting hammered in terms of the financials. But 178 is where we are with the 10-year. Crude, yeah, we got up there and kind of floating around. It seems like bubbling near that 120 level yesterday for crude. By the way, volatility index, we are not just at 32, we're well above that. 32.5 was the low end of yesterday's range, all the way up to 36.5. You know where we closed? About 36.5. So we closed on the lows of the day across many of the sectors. And of course, the volatility index, a lot of the nervousness, a lot of the movement that we are seeing, that's very, very here. That's another question that we'll have to get answered. 45 million contracts trading yesterday. So you wonder why we talk about the derivatives space. Not only do we feel like the derivatives world does show you a little bit of a glimpse of expectation, but on top of that, the activity that we are seeing is just extraordinary. So 45 million contracts trading again yesterday. Beta Energy, absolutely on fire. Of course, it's on fire. We had that huge move, a little bit of pullbacks here and there. Some of those names spiked early and then did pull off of those highs. Pretty extreme. We'll take a look at like a Transocean, which is rigged. That would be one of the examples. Still a good day, but you got Baker Hughes, you've got Halliburton, you've got Schlumberger, a lot of these names that are in that XOP, the beta energy spot in terms of where it is for energy. You had a really nice day out of Exxon, really nice day out of Chevron. Of course, you should, and we did. Then you look over at something like a Kraft Heinz. Well, why would that be up? Well, because people are going to certain safety, what they view as safety areas. Costco actually just nipped up there and got into the green. Lucid had a little bit of a run. Newmont, why would Newmont be running? Well, gold, of course. Gold over 2,000, dragging along a lot of these miners. That's why we've talked about GDX a lot, but we've also talked specifically on the GLD and some of the monstrous option paper that we have been seeing in there. Huge. For weeks now, we've been seeing this GLD paper that has just been flowing and flowing and flowing, looking for upside and actually performing very much like we've been seeing out of the oils and out of different parts of the material space. PVH under some serious pressure. Airlines, United, American, Delta, all those names under some pressure yesterday. You look at a name like Live Nation. We've been hearing about Live Nation for a really long time. It is getting hammered. Then you look at some of the gambling. You look at Caesars. You look at Penn National. Those names as well. Cruise ships under a little bit of pressure. You get the idea. Then you got Micron. You got Qualcomm. We talk about some of the semiconductors with a little bit of pressure as well. So we come into today off of that. Start off the day a little bit different, a little closer to flat. As we were in the pre-market, a lot of movement going on in the pre-market. Why is that? A lot of people will ask. It's because it's a lot less liquidity. You're not seeing everybody participating. So sometimes you get some movements that are great indicators. Sometimes you don't. And today was an interesting one because we were moving around a little bit. By the time we got a little bit closer to the open, we were looking at the Dow in negative territory. We're looking at the NASDAQ getting hit pretty good, down about 75. That improved almost immediately in the first half hour, or at least early on, for the NASDAQ, actually got into positive territory. We also had positive territory for the Dow. But then about the top of the hour until we got down to where we are right now, we started to see some hammering of the markets. We look over at the Dow, it was down 180, 160. Then you look over at the NASDAQ, down about 75, then down triple digits, a little over 100 points. Obviously, any moment we can see these things flip around once again or a continued move to the upside. That's the markets that we're in right now. We mentioned velocity a lot. This is why, because the velocity of these moves is absolutely incredible intraday, and that's really important. So crude up there at 124, gold up there at 2050, silver up there at 2650. Look at copper holding around that 470 level as well. And then you look at corn, soybeans, all higher. 10-year up around 1.8 and change, call it 1.84, 1.82, somewhere there. But the ban on Russian oil really has given the oil, crude, the commodity side of things, another lift to the upside. Now, we were talking about how much we have run over the last 16 months. And now in the last 2 or 3 weeks, obviously, we are seeing a pretty big spike, a lot of that based upon exactly what's going on with Ukraine, Russia, and some of these sanctions and everything else. So volatility index, we're right up there already. We're up there at 36.5. We were a little bit lower. Started to spike a little bit. We saw oil get up there from 124 to 126. It's bouncing around. It's in a pretty decent range also. Energy. We were up early. We were up even more as we've gotten a little deeper into the day, up about 3.5%. Financials started the day a little bit better and then started to move towards flat. And that's the last I looked. That's where the financials were. Consumer discretionary actually improved a little bit from negative into the flat territory. But technology, down about 0.75%, makes a little bit of sense. Semiconductors kind of moving around, shifting around. Last I looked, they were closer to flat. By the way, I wanted to thank everybody who joined us last night for the rapid fire with Market Rebellion. That was a really great session. I hope everybody got something out of that and got introduced and understand some of the great people we have here at Market Rebellion. So thank you for checking in if you did do that. So what's moving today? Beta Energy, again, of course. I'm looking at Valero. I'm looking at Schlumberger. I'm looking at APA. I'm looking at Phillips 66. I'm looking at all these various names, all moving to the upside in a big way. You got Chevron, of course, Exxon, of course, the biggies as well. Dish, you got Dollar Tree, all having a pretty good day. Solar Edge, this is a name that's been hitting a little bit. And yesterday, actually, I bought an ETF that's a clean energy ETF because of the fact that we did have some options paper in there as well. Makes a little bit of sense. As the price of oil goes higher, you're going to start dragging up some of the green energy as well along the way. Some weakness in MOS, that's Mosaic. And the reason there's some weakness there might just be this has been an extraordinarily fast move to the upside. So maybe a little bit of a pause right now after this huge run. Just to take a look at the chart of MOS over the last, call it week and a half, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Datadog, that name's getting hit a little bit today. Those Chinese names like JD and Baidu getting hit a little bit. CrowdStrike, even a Procter & Gamble. Now, that's a little bit surprising, but seeing that as well. Disney, Oh, baby. And how about that American Express? So we had the call in with the halftime report about a week or so ago, and we had that 10,000 lot of those puts being bought in American Express. Wow, those things are moving, and they are definitely moving to the downside along. Or they're going up, those puts, but as the price of AXP gets hit. Now, two unusuals, we're out of here. First one, got to stick with energy. I had so many choices, I can't even tell you. We have our screens lit up probably as much in the first hour today as any day that I can recall. Just absolutely extraordinary for the unusual option activity. A lot of that in the energy space. So I'm just picking one. I'm going to go with ExxonMobil. And why? Because they bought 10,000 of this week's expiring 90 calls. They also buy the 89 calls as well. So a little bit, one of them in the money, the other one right about at the money. Stock was trading about 89.90 at the time of this trade where we were seeing this. Those 90s were trading for a little over, call it $2. The 89 is a little bit more expensive. Obviously, they're in the money. So those are pretty interesting as well. That's number one. Number two, the triple Qs. I do not talk about puts all that often. Very difficult to determine. But when I say sometimes the options markets do give us some great indicators, I started off the take this morning with this. One of the indicators that I'm seeing today are the triple Qs. They're not done, according to what we're seeing. Maybe it's a hedge. Maybe this is actually just somebody who's looking for a little bit more pressure to the downside. But the triple Qs, the April 310 puts, 20,000 of those were purchased. That's close to a $10 option. They're actually offsetting some of that by selling the 285 puts. So in other words, we're talking about a $25 put spread to the downside, expecting to see a little bit more of a push from the triple Qs. Obviously, NASDAQ, very high activity as far as a lot of those big tech names and everything else. That's exactly what we're looking at here. It was trading at about 325 at the time of this trade. Again, these are the April 310 puts that were being purchased. So really wild day, really wild start to the day. Things are going to move all around once again. Expect velocity, expect volatility. And by the way, these volumes, at least from the start, this first hour, the option volumes are absolutely incredible today. Might be looking at a 50 million contract kind of day. Folks, have a great day of trading.